go for it. I appreciate you getting a hold of me too. And
Oh yeah, I'm very happy that you said yes.
oh yeah, of course.
I mean, I think
Well, I'll ask you this: how long we've known each other once we start recording here? Go ahead. I'll wait for you.
okay. There we go. Now we are live.
Uh-oh.
Well, thank you, Robert, for joining me, taking time out of your schedule to.
Some words aren't coming through, so I'm not sure what's happened there. But I got to tell you, I am really excited to be talking to you. It's been a big year for me, which I hate to say. Last year's was a different kind of year, but darn if it didn't have its good parts. Of course, I believe in making a positive out of every negative. Oh, look at that. Oh, it's not supposed to be blue. That's supposed to be pink. What the hell?
Well, I got the whole little set there, right?
Well, just because you're holding those there, let me grab these. I did a vinyl myself. I asked the record company for the rights back to do the vinyl. So these are 12-inch. And because for me, I want to have the best time of my life, right? Working with Keith and Carl. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. I want to have a vinyl of the new one, Third Impression. So I asked for the rights back to do the vinyl. It's being pressed right now. I can't help myself. It costs me a lot of money, but even if I only sell one to myself, well, I'm doing pre-orders. I've actually sold quite a few, but I'm only doing 200. That, just a few. So anyway.
Oh yeah. Well,
Ron, how have we known each other? How long have we known each other? Quite a while.
Quite a while, yeah. Yeah. It's, I was going through Facebook and I'm like going, I know that name. I know who he is. And I'm like going, I'm just going to hit the friend request and, see where it goes. And then, we've been kind of back and forth in contact, both.
Yeah.
And then I got to tell you something. I had this one on cassette years when it came out, and
88.
But at that time, I was in a different musical frame of mind. I was listening to a lot of what that thrash metal stuff. So
and maybe some grunge too in there
later on, yeah, and
Pearl Jam,
and then this one just kind of went by the wayside, and I'm like going, and then when you came out with The Rules Have Changed, I was like going, okay, now I need to go and get this, because this is the first time when I bought this last year was the first time I ever had this on CD.
Wow. And
when I re-listened to it again with fresh ears, 30 something years.
All right, knock it off. I thought we were friends. Knock it off.
And I'm like, and I was like going, I missed so much of what it was all about when it came out. And but it's nice when you can go back and revisit something that you listened to when you were younger and through fresher ears, because I don't know about you, but as I've gotten older, I'm more open to more music styles, than I was when I was in my 20s. Which
I have to tell you that album right there. I'll frame this a little bit. It came out. Robert Berry was not Greg Lake, so I was off the chart right there. Nobody wanted to hear me unless it was the 18 to 25 kind of year old audience, which of course we had a top 10 hit. The new kids were loving it, right? Talking about, but Keith got criticized really heavily by the ELP fans because he was playing songs with the progressive surrounding it. So they never gave it a chance to go, oh my God, look at the soundscape he's doing. Look at all the stuff. And on tour, how does he do that all live? Everything. Carl didn't get criticized because he had Asia. Asia did the exact same thing. Yes did the same thing, right? Asia was okay to do songs with some progressive around it. Steve Howe, I was lucky enough to play with him, and GTR, same thing. Songs with progressive around it. But Three couldn't get away with it because Emerson never done it before. If I would have been Greg Lake, they might have cracked the door a little bit and let it sort of happen, and maybe it would have gone on. And I don't mind that. I mean, I was a Greg Lake fan, so don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining about that. I totally understood it, you know. But we had a top 10 song and it sold a lot. All three of us made quite a chunk of money. I built a house. I mean, it was very successful to that new audience, but the audience we wanted was guys like you, the faithful, the guys that were going to go to their grave with the album, like an ELP album or Yes album, you know. Was it 2016? A record company actually put out Live in Boston, Three live in Boston. And Carl's manager, Bruce Pilato, great guy, called me and said, you know, Carl and Keith are good with this. You're good with it? They put this out? I said, oh, good with it. I'm fantastic. Wow. Yeah, I would love that. He said, well, Keith, you know, thinks it's money in the bank, paycheck. And Carl, you know, he'll do everything. He just is a dynamo. It came out. Keith called me the night he listened to it. And even Keith said, my God, we were such a good band. Now, that's why I'm not offended by what you said, which just kind of went by the wayside because it wasn't what you're into. Because so many people were like that. Some of them just rebelling against it not being an ELP or me not being Greg. And even Keith got criticized so heavily that he broke up the band. And when he called and said that, I mean, it was just a joyful moment for me. I'll never forget it, because that's when I asked him if we could do a follow-up. He said, maybe. So, yeah. And so I totally understand why you would not be into it back then. And I mean, there's a lot of things that, you know, that I still don't get, like the Grateful Dead. I don't get it.
No,
Even when I get older.
I that's one thing I don't get, but you know, I appreciate, because I have a few friends that are really heavily into them, and it's like I like that their commitment to it. Yeah, I think that of all the bands, I mean, their fans are so committed to the. I mean, I think they would go off a cliff. I know, it's crazy. You know, it's jamming, rambling on music. It goes on for hours sometimes, and I guess once you go to a concert and you see everybody loves them and you get that feeling. I mean, that happened to me with Bruce Springsteen. I go, this guy, this gruffy voice and singing, I'm born to run. I mean, I liked it okay, but I've got people going crazy for this guy. So I went to see him. I went to see him. I went, oh my God. Oh yeah. I get it. That is what a tremendous artist, you know, and the energy and the commitment to everything was really good. I got lucky to see ELP on their Black Moon tour at the Universal Amphitheater in at Universal Studios in Los Angeles, and I was amazed once he did that. I forget. See, I'm not good with some of the songs, but once he got the dagger out and started, you know, hitting that Hammond and making that thing make noises that are so unearthly, it's like I was like my jaw dropped, and I was like going, this was fantastic. And I said, no keyboard player did that. Nobody in the whole world. And you know that the Emerson estate, once Keith was gone, didn't want me to use anything to do with what Keith and I had written, because they wanted him remembered as a composer. And I went, pardon me? This is the guy who impressed you, stabbing the knife, pulling it over on top of him, shooting flames out of the Moog. I mean, come on, you know, he's incredible. Besides, he was the best player. The playing was over the top amazing. Plus the antics were one of a kind. Exactly. Yeah, I got someone in the room there, a guy named Robert Schindler. Oh yes, fantastic keyboard player. Do you know him? Yeah, he's a friend of mine. You know,
Yes.
I also follow him on Instagram, just like I
Well,
follow.
to me, he's just a roadie. He's laughing right now because he helped us load in a place. He's,
I
hey,
yeah, I think it's just amazing the music. I mean, I went through different stages, but like I tell a lot of people, it's like my first real love of music happened in 1980. Everything before that, it was just everything was like on the radio, you know, top
mhm.
40. You know, it didn't really affect me or anything. But when a friend of mine in 1980 gave me a Rush Permanent Waves on cassette, I was like, at first I was like, why are you giving me this? Because I have
Yeah,
no idea who these people are.
yeah,
And he said, just put it in your cassette player. Just trust me. Put it in. And, you know, that began my slow journey, you know, into more, into music, into
yeah,
actually enjoying it and loving it, you know,
yeah.
and, and it just further down the line, going up to 1993 when uh, at UCLA they had a prog fest. You know, it was supposed to have been 2 days, but it got cut down to one for money reasons. And two bands that I saw there was amazing. And I was like, at that point I never really saw progressive bands
Right.
in a
What
live
year
element.
would that be? Is that in the
Not,
90s?
yeah, 93.
I'm wondering if I was there because I had pilgrimage to a point with the record company in England. They wanted me to come and sign CDs at the booth, and Spock's Beard played for the first time I saw them. And my friend Kevin Gilbert was doing sound. I go, what are you doing sound for this? He's a great artist. He's gone now too. But
Oh, I
it was
know.
yes. I was Spock's Beard at that show. Do you know?
They were, I think, at 94 or
Okay.
95. I
All
think
right.
one of those years. But it was like, but the guy that put one of the main guys that put it on, Greg Walker, he just brought in so many bands, not only from the United States but from all over the world, and
Yeah.
probably bankrupt themselves umpteen times over. But he
Yeah.
brought in so many bands that I never even heard of, and I was like going, it was like all of this stuff. I was just digesting everything, and some stuff I really liked, and some stuff it was like, okay, it's okay. I appreciate it, but it's not my taste. But
It doesn't give you anything to take home, kind of. That's what I like to say. Yeah, you got to have a
yeah,
piece of
and
the
then
band of the song to take home and go, oh, that part there. Did you hear that? You need that.
and like you were saying with Kevin Gilbert, it's like seeing in '94 when he did that Lamb Lies Down on Broadway thing.
Right.
I was like, these were things that was like amazing. I mean, and from like 93 on is when I really started diving really in, and as I said, going down the rabbit hole,
Yeah.
and people recommended me things. So it's like, I'm going further and further down the rabbit hole. And then, getting to see, ELP live in 90, I think that was 94 was the Black Moon tour, and or 93, one of those years. That was like one of the highlights of the stuff that I seen live.
Yeah.
The bands, and it's like, but the thing is, I wasn't really. I needed to be nudged to go to concerts because I'm not a real people person in big crowds.
Well, they
But
should have held him at a strip club. Then it would have, changed the attitude.
oh yeah, been a little more intimate type. But
Sure.
I've seen stuff, in like little clubs to like big arenas,
Yeah.
and it's like, and I understand what the bigger the band is, the bigger the venue they have to have, or else
Sure.
they're going to be playing, a whole month, like
A
a house.
residency at Vegas. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, but just to see all these bands afterwards, and My last live thing I went to was in 2012 for Rossfest. They have this. It was in Pennsylvania, but now they're down in Florida, and
Yes. I'm hoping to play that too. Yes.
That would be a fantastic place for you to, because the people that go there are so they'll eat you up. It's like they'll see who you are and they'll listen to you, and then the minute you're off the stage, they run over to the merch table and like little scavengers and just like
right.
get it all. They got, and I was one of those people. Because it's like
we headlined a Prague Fest in 2019, and it's the same kind of audience, maybe even a lot of the same people, because there's very few progressive rock festivals like that. And I got on stage because I've been doing this 35 years and progressive music is sort of my foundation, And I told the band, I said, just wait here for a minute. I walked out on the stage, everybody expecting the show to start and ba-bam, ba-bam, fanfare and all that big sound. I go, I had to come out here and thank you people. You are my people for letting me make my living in music. And I really meant it. I mean, these were my people. This is what it's sustained me for years. I've done different, rock things, great Khin, Ambrosia, all that. But the progressive thing, what I love and the music I get to do and the guys I've got to play with is my thing. So I walked out and I said, okay, guys, I brought the band out then. I'm done. Come on out, And
it's like,
I got my manager at that show. And he emailed me after. He goes, that was the strangest short start of a concert I've ever seen. But you're right. Then afterwards, I got to meet so many people who I know the names from Facebook and Instagram and all that. It is like we're talking about Grateful Dead. The Prague people appreciate everything about progressive music. They like the virtuosity in it. They like the tone quality of it. Some like lyrics for a different reason, like the Rush lyrics are just out of this world. Neil Peart, what he wrote to most, he didn't write them all, but most of them out of this world. Some of the Prague lyrics are sci-fi kind of stuff, that's
right,
cool.
right.
Some of them are just mean nothing. And those are the ones I have a hard time just kind of ramble on and mean nothing. But there's still so many aspects of progressive music that you could enjoy. That's not the flavor of the month or the sound of the week or whatever.
Right.
And that's, that's the kind of person that gets into it. The one that has enough depth in their thinking that they want to hear different stuff anyway.
Well, yeah, the big thing that gets to me is with progressive music, not only instrumentation, but it's like like you said, the lyrics. And for me, progressive music, it's like you're going on a journey with a song.
Yes.
Whether it's a 3-minute song or a 30-minute song, it doesn't matter the length, but you're going on a journey, whether it's going to be a sci-fi adventure or it's going to be something personal, if you got lyrics about something that happened to you in your life or something you saw on TV that affected you. I mean, it's a journey. That's what I see the big difference between progressive music and other music is they take you on a journey. And
it has more in common with classical music, really. More in common, because classical can just be instrumental and it's still, people come to tears with no words. The music or an opera. I'm not a huge opera fan because I had to sing it in college. So I'm like, no, that was a lot of work. But same thing, the voice and the power of it and the lyric and everything. So progressive has that going.
And I think why I gravitated to progressive rock music is when in elementary school, my parents at summertime sent me, down Los Angeles, they have the place called the Music Center.
Yes.
And they used to have every Saturdays in the summer, like Peter and the Wolf, and things like that. And they sent me there. I don't know why they did, but for some reason that music stuck with me, deep down.
Yeah.
So when I tell this story all the time, thrash metal stuff. I worked in a record store in 1989, 1990, and the manager was just getting tired of me and this other guy putting the, Metallica or stuff into the CD player in the store speakers. So he pulled out, he says, I got something for you that you're going to like. And he put it in, and it was King Crimson Red.
Hmm.
And from that point on, it was like, okay, that changed where, and in my mind, I was saying, this is the music that I've been destined to listen to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it had everything I wanted. It had the heaviness, and it had depth to it, whereas some of the heavy metal really didn't. It was a lot of it, was kind of two-dimensional. Once in a while, you do get one that's rises above that, but
It's easy access, and you know what you're getting, and it's a sound that hasn't changed a whole lot. Sort of like all this hip hop stuff isn't a whole lot different than disco. I mean, it is a little sound, but it hasn't changed that much. It's still going boosh, boosh, boom,
yeah,
And but there's so many different styles now in music that are accessible because of the internet. The same internet that has killed our living by stripping away the financial gain we can get from selling our music, to streaming where we get nothing, has made it so anybody can put their music out there, and there's so many styles and different variations and stuff that it's kind of like one big landscape of music now.
Oh yeah, I keep on seeing I think there's more stuff coming out now than there was 20 years ago, because
it was probably there. It was there, just we had no way to get it out. Guys with their little cassette recorder, a 4-track in their garage, bands recording themselves live. It was there. I actually think there was more musicians with bands and wanting to perform because there's more venues then, and there's more possibilities actually performing. But now you could do it in your house, in your garage, whatever. So it balances out.
Oh yeah, and then also now with the advent of Zoom, you can get in contact with people a lot quicker. Sure. I mean, I see a lot of musicians do their Facebook Live, and either with their piano and singing, or guitar and singing, or or just singing. That have backing tracks going. And so it's like there's so much possibilities now, and then but then the pandemic hit, and it basically affected music in the biggest way possible.
Right. Everybody in the entertainment, no matter if they just open the door at the stage, it affected all the way down to that guy who takes the tickets and everything. It's
right.
Crazy. Here in California in June, they're gonna raise all the restrictions. There's a few shows that are being put on. I'm going to a movie today, actually inside for the first time.
Right.
Rebecca and I love going to movies, and we haven't been able to. And we're going to go into a real movie theater and have some popcorn and watch, Godzilla meets something or other, because there's very few movies that were made. So
right.
Watch that. But I think we talked earlier before we got a line here. I try to live as normal as possible. You're in my studio. I'll swing this around a little bit. You can still see the old 2-inch tape machine back there. You see my Neve console, the Moogs up there. There's, a whole bunch of guitars back there in a booth.
Oh man.
I'm in my control room. This is a professional studio, and I have the best everything. I get that for me, but then to pay for it, I have to do sessions, which I love to do. So Monday through Friday, my day job, if I'm not doing a tour or my own album, I'm working with artists. So I play a lot of instruments, as you know. So I work with a lot of single people, one at a time. The guy that plays guitar and sings, and his buddy plays drums like Ginger Baker or Keith Moon, and he doesn't want that in his song. He comes in, he has me do his track for him. He plays the guitar and sings. I'll do his drums, bass, keyboards, whatever else it needs to, the style that he wants and what I've sort of assessed that he'd sound good doing. And I was 75% of normal in 2020 business wise, I don't advertise it, all word of mouth. So I thought, oh, I'm going to go down. There's no way I'm going to have any business. And I got more calls. It was crazy, really. And of course, I was working on Third Impression. So 25% of my year, I needed to work on my own album. And, but it was almost normal. And we would go out to eat 3 nights a week somewhere. If we couldn't go in or even outside dining, we'd sit in the car with the to-go in a place, could be out in front of the restaurant, could be up above the water tower here in Campbell where we live. And we make it a date night like we were going out. So we deliberately tried to act as normal as possible, even though it wasn't. And I've told you too that, I have a coat from like when we play Madison Square Gardens that has Purell in the pocket still, because I've always had to live like a singer. I can't afford to get sick, So,
Right.
It was a bad year, but there were ways to try to make it as positive as possible. But you had to be wise about staying sanitized, we'll call it, and safe. And
Right.
I'm not an anti-vax or any of that stuff. I have the vaccine. I didn't want to take it just because I was really proud that I lived a normal life and I didn't get sick, right? But, we all need to take it, I think. Anyway, let's not get into that. But I had a really good year. And this year, because of Third Impression, has started out, Ron, I got to tell you, I didn't want to do a third 3 album. It's 3-2, but I call it the third one in the series. You have all 3.
Right.
Record company called me and they said, we'd like you to do a follow-up. I said, I have one song that Keith and I wrote left over. It's 9 minutes long. I couldn't use on the last album because it was just too much music.
Right.
And I said, I really don't want to do another one. He's gone. This is my little trophy. No one's heard it. And they said, well, let's put it this way. The rules have changed, did really well. And we can't tell you what White Snake and Yes and everybody does, because Frontiers has everybody, right? All the 80s, 70s, they have everybody. But you sold a lot of copies. The album did really well. You don't want to miss this opportunity of doing a follow-up while you're hot. I was like, oh God, that's a sales pitch. I mean, they're saying these big names, and my album did well, Keith and I's album, I should say. And so I said, okay, I'll tell you what, I will write 7 songs that I am proud of, that I think Keith would have worked on. They have to be of a certain quality, because I spent a lot of time with him talking on the phone, everything about what we were going to do. So I know, certain things he didn't want, certain words he didn't like, girl, you want to tell the word girl on a song, he didn't like that,
Right.
And if I could write 7 songs, I'll finish up Never, the one Keith and I did together, and I'll let you know. It took me a year and I got it done. And I thought, well, I've achieved not only what Keith and I wanted to achieve with the 3 sound, but I've moved half the album toward what I might do next.
Right.
That was important. I mean, I will not do another 3 or 3.2 album. There is no way to do it without Keith. With at least something of his, and I've exhausted all the material. And I said, well, I've accomplished that too. It looks like, more guitar, which is sort of like GTR in Asia, so have a good mix between keyboards and guitars, where that's me more. So I sent it to my manager on the record company, and they said, wow, this is really good. I think you should release it. But they didn't say, oh, it's a genius piece of work. This is good, see what the people think. More reviews than not, like I say, 80% have said they think this is better than the rules have changed. Now, I don't, whatever anybody thinks is fine with me, even if they hate it. Okay,
Right.
well, I get it. We talked about, you didn't like the 3 album because you're in a different style. That doesn't offend me,
Right.
But to have 80% of the reviews and interviews say, I like this better, and my favorite song of all 3 is, and a lot of them said, Top of the World, first song of this album, has been a reward in a way that I could never, ever dream of, because I thought people would say, well, the album's okay, but check out that last side of Emerson. That's a great song. The rest of it is okay. And that didn't happen. So I'm pretty thrilled that the package of the 3 albums, which you have, and that was so cool to see them,
Right.
makes a nice bundle of music that is of similar sound and growth and moving on. Yeah, I mean, it's a package now, and I feel like I've sealed it off the right way. So
Well,
I don't know.
Well, like I told you on the messenger, I said, in my opinion, the the spirit of Keith is in that third impression. I hear it.
Yeah.
And I was like going, it's like, Robert got spirit, in the keyboard sounds and the way they were arranged and everything. I'm like going, you nailed it.
I got it.
As they say.
Let me tell you, it's a couple things about that. It's good you brought that up because the song "Talking About" off the first album was our #9 hit, right? All the radio stations we'd go there, go, this sounds so good in the radio. Guns N' Roses is coming on, and it's all guitar stuff. But when "Talking About" comes on, God, it just sounds so huge. And that was cool. We had a hit. But I actually wrote that song before I joined GTR the year before, and GTR did that song. And I wrote it by myself for the Robert Berry Band here in Campbell, San Jose area, Silicon Valley, It had the same fanfare with the big chords and everything. Not half as big as Keith made it, but still had the fanfare. I listened to the original demo. It's like, Keith could have written this even back then. Then Steve Howe took it and used the Going for the One kind of down, the vibrato arm guitar to do the fanfare thing. And when I left GTR, I brought that song with me because I knew, playing with Keith Emerson, that he was the right guy to do that. But I already had some of that DNA, being a huge fan of Keith's and starting as a keyboard player. Then imagine this. I'm spending months in the barn with Keith and Carl, and as a keyboard player, now bass player, I'm getting a piano lesson basically every day, watching him and going, holy shit, excuse my language. But
Right.
And then he takes my song, Lover to Lover. I said, Keith, you need to do something with this. It's just a song now. I come back the next day. He'd been up all night and he had an 8-track Atari, I think it was, in there. And he played what he had done. And I said, what kind of sequencer did you use? And a sequencer is something you play a keyboard into, and it auto corrects all the timing and makes everything perfect. And he looked at me all insulted. He goes, sequencer? I didn't use a sequencer. I play that. It was so immense and so exact. And he had worked on it all night, So that I got those lessons. I mean, as a keyboard player, I was getting schooled by him without even knowing it. And then, of course, go up 27 years and we started working on The Rules Have Changed. We're talking on the phone. I'll turn this around here. Here's my Pro Tools screen. And I'll put this down. This is the cheap Casio piano that if you're the singer, I go, Ron, it's a C. You're singing a B. Oh, okay. No. Oh, it's an A minor chord, right? So, and the Pro Tools screen is there, and we'd be working on your song, let's say. Well, Keith and I work this way. And I said, well, I got this idea for a song. And here's me, like chopsticks, right? And he'd go,
right.
Well, that's okay. But what about, I'd go, yeah, okay. And between the two of us, we try to put a phone and a little idea down. That was also a Keith Emerson piano lesson for me. I mean, I had to figure out what he just played over the phone, This was also his happy place because obviously, as we all know, he was very unhappy with other parts of his life.
Right.
I had no idea because we are creating music. I had gotten him a lot of money from Frontiers for our record deal, complete artistic control, everything. It was just, it couldn't have been better. I had no idea that he was that down about everything else because this was his happy spot, making music. And he was great at it still, So anyway, that when you're talking about the style and having Emerson, you can feel it in the music and stuff. It's something that I loved as a young keyboard player and took to. I mean, I played Lucky Man. I never played Carnival Night or Tarkus. They're way too hard for me. But I learned some Emerson stuff and the Moog and all that. And then all the time I spent, it just became a part of me. thinking it'll probably come out whatever I do next, even though I want to keep this 3 albums and time stamped. I don't know if I can keep it completely out of who I am.
Right, right.
Hmm.
That's an amazing thing what you said, because if you notice when some bands and then they do their music, and then one of them goes off to do a solo album.
Yeah.
Even if they're trying hard to not sound like their band, there is always something there, kind of
Sure.
that it's
Especially if
just
it's a vocalist. If it's a vocalist, it's hard to not sound. It's like the style changed a bit, and it sounds like the same band because of the singing. It's like it's hard.
right. Yeah, and it's like you were saying about that song "Top of the World." I mean, what a powerful song. And I was listening to it. Actually, I was listening to it earlier in the car when I was running some errands,
Yeah.
and I had to put it up a little louder than what you're supposed to. But
Yeah.
and just listening to it, I was sitting there in the parking lot of the grocery store, just sitting there listening to it, and it just. But the whole album. I mean, like I said, I did a post. I said, listening to this album, there's not a dud on it, and that is for me, a very rare thing that I've encountered, because there's usually like maybe one song that's like, they call it filler,
Feel it right.
but it's not like that with this one, and it's not trying to boost your ego or anything. It's just when I hear that, to me that's a perfect album, because it's like I can listen to it from the first song to the end, not wanting to skip anything. It's like you got to listen to it in sequence.
Honest. I've known you long enough to know you'd be honest with me, and you could say, yeah, that one, wasn't too, like Emotional Trigger. I took a chance. Now I took 2 chances. I knew that I had to move this album to a little bit of what I might do next, because this fan base for the 3 and 3.2 again are my people, right? I mean, that's where I live, and I want them to come along with me. But if they're not going to, I don't want to wait till the next album's out. I said, well, let me put a little more of me in it. Top of the World starts with a minute of sort of Celtic acoustic guitar stuff. Right. That was a risky move. I talked to Nick, my manager, a lot about that. I said, he thought it should happen. He goes, I think it's a good idea. I said, well, people are going to listen to that and go, where's the keyboards? And either they'll wait for never and hate the rest of the album, or they'll go, well, it's kind of refreshing. Luckily, they're saying, wow, that song goes through all these movements and everything.
Exactly.
So, there was that, but then there's Emotional Trigger in the middle of it too, which is a jazz piece, because Keith and I mean, he really liked Oscar Peterson. My mom and dad had a big band. I had jazz piano lessons. Oscar Peterson is just incredible, and it's not Oscar Peterson, but it's jazzy, smoky,
Right.
And that could be another thing. People go, wow. I mean, the lyrics are a little depressing, Emotional Trigger. Oh, that's about the news, like it's just pushing us down all the time, it seems like.
Right.
And then it's just piano, bass, and drums, a little Moog solo in the middle, People, they haven't singled it out as a favorite or one that they think it's fantastic, but they haven't said, I don't care for that. I don't know, why did he put that in there? So that worked also too, and lucky, very, very lucky that I could only do this the way that I felt I had to do it. I couldn't prefabricate any, lyrics or any style or anything. I just had to do this to book in the 3 band.
Right.
And it seems like it's worked. So
now when the lockdown, when everybody's it's, I guess, a new normal, you will call it.
yeah.
I seen one interview where you said you wanted to do this live, and I'm just curious, who would you have in your band? Would it be local musicians?
No, I was out in 2019 with the 3.2, and what do we call it? 3.2 featuring Robert Berry, just to get everything there. The 3.2 band was Andrew Collier, who lives in New York. He has a band Circuline, and
I've heard of
he had been sending me his albums. We've been talking for years. He came to see December people play in New Jersey or something, you know, and it just happened that he grew up with my wife, Rebecca, and her brother in Farmington, Missouri. It's a little town. And 12 years ago, 10 years ago, he came to me at one of the show. He goes, man, you know, I've been a doctor I want to get back into music. What should I do? And I'm thinking, oh, brother, you know, here's a guy, been a doctor for a long time. Now he wants to do music again. I said, well, Andrew, you just have to do everything. You have to write, you have to sing, you have to play well. You know, you need to get in a band, stage experience. You have to do it all. That's the only way to really make something happen. And you move that all forward. Well, damn, that guy in the next 5 or 6 years did exactly that. Has a fantastic band, is writing, playing, singing, doing everything. Has a great social media, everything about it. And he sent me the albums. I'm like, wow, this guy's really good, you know? So when I wanted to do this, I thought, well, who's going to play my version of Carnival 9 I did with Jordan Rudess and Simon Phillips and Mark Wood? I don't know if you've heard that on the tribute. It's really a great, I mean, Jordan Rudess, come on. It's incredible. Who's going to play my version of Roundabout? The things I have to play on tour because they've been sort of iconic in the tribute album world, you know. Who's going to do that guitar solo? And then who's going to play all the stuff that I did with Keith, even talking about, and then somebody's watching off the rules have changed, and now it would be Fond Farewell, let's say, you know. And I thought, I'm going to call Andrew. I called him and I said, Andrew, I really have watched you. You are a fine musician, you know. I said, but I watched you do everything else. You want to be the keyboard player for the band? Yes, I'll do it. Right. I said, maybe you ought to listen to Carnival 9 that Jordan Rudess did first, and listen to Desde la Vida that Keith has on the first album, because we're going to do both of them. Right. He goes, I'll have it. And he's that kind of guy. He's like a dog on a raw piece of meat. He just makes it happen, right? He was incredible on the tour. Had it all going. Paul Keller's been with me since Hush, my first professional band in college years. He went on the 3 tours, our guitar player with Keith, Carl, and I, playing Desde la Vida and all the stuff that we did back then. He was in the Robert Berry band, and he and I do an acoustic thing sometime in time. He's been a friend of mine a long time. He knows all my material. But some of the stuff I had done, like the guitar solo in Roundabout, is really difficult. And I did it myself. And, you know, I really spent a lot of time because Steve Howe was going to play the end with me. So I thought, well, I need to impress Steve with this guitar solo, you know.
Right.
Paul, he nailed that stuff. He nailed Mark Wood violin solo in the middle of Carnival 9, the version I did with Jordan and Simon Phillips. He played that on guitar. Fantastic. I was talking to Andrew. I said, boy, the drummer thing's going to be really tough because my music is more of a Cozy Powell than a Carl Palmer. It has a heavier beat, you know.
Right.
But you have to be able to play that fancy stuff. And he goes, you know, Jimmy Keegan is not in Spock's Beard right now. I don't know what he's doing. Let me get a hold of him. He calls Jimmy. Jimmy says, I'd love to do this. So I called Jimmy. Said, Jimmy, we've never met, but you're interested? Yes, I'd like to do this. So Jimmy Keegan, who was with Spock's Beard a long time, who also has a super high vocal. He could sing way up there, all that John Anderson kind of level stuff, you know.
Right.
Fulfilled. We all 4 of us sang. All 4 of us played everything we needed to play. We're capable, and the band was stellar. In fact, when we headlined Prague Stock, I had it videoed and recorded live, and that's going to be out June, July or so. It's going to be a live performance of my history, basically, in progressive rock.
Oh, wow. That'll be amazing to see. Yeah.
I'm excited about it. It's a lot of work getting it all mixed because, you know, they send it all to me, but it's all separate tracks and everything, and they'll kind of make it sound right.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I do anyway. So, you know, it's just, it's amazing. I mean, I was so honored to go out there. You know, we did a 27 city tour we did 5 shows on the West Coast, the other ones on the East Coast. So we did 22 shows in 26 days on the East Coast or something. It was a lot. And every one of them, people were there with Hush albums or 3 albums or, Alliance stuff. It was really something. I just felt so honored and so blessed that these people had supported me all these years, that every time I started the show, I'd walk out and I'd say, I got to thank you guys, and then I bring the band on. So it really was good. And the band was smoking. The DVD is going to be a really great bundle of music. You take the original stuff and you take some of the tribute songs, like Watcher of the Sky by Genesis is on there. And it's really going to be, I think, a good package.
Well, at one time I had one of your CDs, and I don't know what happened to it. A pilgrimage to a point. I had
yes,
that thing.
Yes.
I don't know where it went to, but it just, and I was like going, that's Last Ride into the Sun.
We played that on the tour. I never thought I'd play that live.
I was like going, that's one of those songs, musically and lyrically, that's taking you on a journey.
Did you know why? I don't know if I ever told you why I wrote that song.
No.
We're 19, I guess 89, 3 had the hit, 3 did the tour. Keith got criticized so bad, wanted to break up the band. So I fly back to London. They say, Keith doesn't want to do this anymore. He thinks they tell him it's ruining his reputation. So I sit down and go, I'm going to write a song that will not ruin anybody's reputation. That is more what 3 should be doing, let's see, The Last Ride into the Sun. So I start with it. And it was 2/3 of what it wound up to be on the album you heard. But I took it to this meeting. We got our accountant, John Goldwyn, there, manager, Brian Lane's there, Keith, Carl, and me. We're sitting at this big table. And Keith's like, not very happy, right? I said, before we sign these papers, I want to play you something. I'm all excited about this. I'm thinking, Keith's going to love this. And this is what we should be doing. I just know it. After touring and record all this stuff, I just know this is what we should be doing. I put in a boombox there, played it. And I don't remember if it was 6 minutes, 7 minutes of it then. It was quite a bit of it. And turned it off. I said, I think that's what we should be doing. We shouldn't break up the band. And Keith looks at me, he goes, well, that sounds like me playing. Well, so, well, that's the point. I'm writing in our style. Now just think what that's going to be when you take it, tear it all apart and do your thing. It's got some bones there, right? He goes, no, I'm done with this. Oh. That's why that song got written. That was my last ditch effort to try to save the band. Could you imagine, with the way the rules had changed, was it received, and now Third Impression, if we would have been going the whole time.
Right.
And I hate to say it, but Keith didn't really do anything. Touch and Go was great. Desert of Vida was great. And then there's a few things on Black Moon, I think was the next album. But then that was pretty much it. Nothing else the rest of his career until we got to The Rules Had Changed, was really notable and was with really any kind of record company, that had any strength. But could you imagine if he could have been creative the whole time? It just would have been incredible. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
Do you think it was the time that it came out? The first one?
The 3 album? Well, yeah, it was. Yeah, even Geffen, we had a hit, right? We're at number 9, we're touring, we're getting crowds, everything's, we're not playing huge places, but it's all sold out. Radio stations are all saying how much they like it. And Geffen was going to release Lover to Lovers, another single, and they said, we want you to go in and do another album. And Keith said, what? Keith hadn't had a top 10 single for a long time, and why would you not want to promote this? We're doing well, we're a new band. And that was number one thing that kind of got him off. Well, the Geffen's not going to support us when we have a top 10 single and we're releasing another single. I went off that label. That's not the way it's supposed to happen. But Geffen was also grooming Guns N' Roses. I don't know if Nirvana was on Geffen, but that's what was happening then. You know, it was
Right.
all heading toward that. I wouldn't call it. I don't know. Like maybe Guns N' Roses metal. I don't know. It's hard rock to me, and the
Right.
grunge stuff. You know, the Seattle scene. It was all heading that way, and Geffen Records was big in that. And I think they just decided that they were going to push that other music, and we got caught up in like a CD. At that point, we had a vinyl, a cassette, and a CD. After three, there was no cassettes and vinyls anymore, really. Right? It was all
Right.
CD. You know, that changed right then, and that was sort of like music too. It got more harder rock. So yeah, the timing had something to do with it. If we would have been released mid '80s, would have 2-3 albums probably before it changed.
Right. Right. But it was just amazing how, the prog giants of the 70s, how they in the 80s they changed their styles to suit the times. And
Yes.
sometimes I often some of them, maybe not so much the prog ones, but some rock bands, when they got from the 70s into the 80s, it's like the sound was sometimes really cringe-worthy because of the that drum sound that was very popular in the
Right.
in the 80s, and a lot of people were saying it kind of went back. One of the first guys that had that big drum sound in the 80s, Phil Collins, with it in his, and they said that, but I think someone took that and took it a little bit further, because some of the drums are like really, it sound very hollow. And
Yeah, it was a lot of digital reverb, gated reverb and stuff. It
yeah,
became
and it's
the
like,
sound, and yeah, it was everybody sounded the same. The guitar had the big sustain using a Rockman and whatever else they had going on back then, you know. And the drums all sound the same, you know, the Mutt Lang and Def Leppard. And although I love Def Leppard, don't get me wrong,
oh
but it
yeah,
had that sound, you know, the 80s had the arena rock kind of sound. And yeah, it became homogenized in the 80s in a lot of ways. And that's what led to people getting grungy in the 90s. Now, I don't know because I haven't studied it, but there was very little progressive music in the 90s surviving the big bands. That's why
right,
Magna Carta Records decided to do these tribute albums. And they helped
right,
put me on the map. They really put me on the map. Um, in fact, it's funny. I had sent them Pilgrimage to a Point because they had progressive music. And I said, I'm looking for a label to release this. I pressed it myself. So I sold it mail order, sold like a couple thousand copies just out of a few fanzines that were out. And I said, I need to get this to a record company. People are liking this. And after I mailed it to them, probably 2 months later, they called me. Oh, yes, we want to talk to you about doing some work for our label. Oh, did you get my album? No, what album's that? Their mailroom, they just totally tossed it. They could care less, right? I said, well, I have an album of stuff I wrote with Keith and Carl and Steve Howe and all these. Oh, well, we'll find it. We'll get back to you. And they decided to use me on their tribute series more because I told them I would only do a tribute song if I could do it the way that I would do it if I was in that band and that song was released then in the 90s, right?
right.
So most of my versions are much heavier, the rhythm's stronger, the drums are bigger, the bass and guitars, I forget the first one I did. It might have been Roundabout, and they just really took to that. And Jordan Root, the same thing. He was involved in a lot of those Magna Carta
Right.
things.
Oh yeah,
It kept us alive, kept us on the map in some way with the real prog fan. And then the 2000s have started to climb up a little bit. And I got to say, it seems to me that there's enough prog music fans now to keep the genre alive, and at least in touring, to make a bit of a living out of it. You still have to have you have to pump gas during the day at a gas station, but
right.
otherwise, all music's like that,
But I have to say that the prog fans, while sometimes they can be very snobbish on
Oh yeah,
certain things, but then other times they're very loyal to the genre. It's like they may nitpick at it, but if someone from the outside attacks it, they defend it. And and the thing with progressive rock is it's such a variety of sounds in it that you can't just say, oh, if it doesn't sound like ELP or Yes or Genesis, you know, it's not prog, or it doesn't sound like Gentle Giant, it's not prog. You know, it's all these things, you know, it's like, it's progressive rock, at least to me, is so vast. It can be, it could have simple moments in it and still be progressive. You know, just simple, you know, when the singer, such as yourself, you know, basically just sits there without anything backing him up and just sings like maybe a couple lines of the song and then it goes back into it. It's like that simple moment right there to me is part of the genre, you know. And I mean, there's some people I know that don't like that. They want something as complex as possible, where it's like a million notes a minute, you know, or a second.
You know, Dream Theater is a good example. Dream Theater is amazing, right? But boy, they're always over the top. Wow.
Right. I mean, they're like you said, it's amazing, but it's like, you know, I need I need to catch my breath here a little bit, you know, and you know, enjoy the you know, the scenery, you know, and and that's why it's like I like music when there's either stories of each song or if the whole, you know, or a concept album. I mean, whether it's about, you know, some science fiction thing or if it's about a personal issue, you know, it takes you on a journey. And there's been just so many great, you know, countless albums that are out there that they take you there, and you always remember that's the album at a certain time period in your life that affected you. Sure. You know, I have stuff. I have,
definitely.
Yeah, timestamp. I mean, I have quite a few, you know, in my recent years that things kind of have gone on the downside, and you know, health wise, and music is just right there, keeping me focused, keeping me from not being the person that's woe is me. You know, I never do that. And music, you know, has always kept me sane. You know.
Oh, wait, whoa, I got to stop you right there. Kept you sane.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's for me to judge. I think you're teetering there on the sane.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You know, I mean, you've seen some of the stuff I post on Facebook, and it's like, you know, I'm amazed I have as many friends as I do. But you know, hey, you know, it like in all honesty, without music, I think I'd just be a very boring person.
Has that not been proven in 2020? How everybody that's been taken away from them, going out to concerts, going out to see any kind of entertainment. I mean, seeing the local acoustic guy playing at a restaurant, and it's made such an impact on people going, wow, I had no idea that even just seeing a concert that I wasn't at that was filmed and shown on TV, you know,
right?
They couldn't do that. They were manufactured. They're like Zoom conferences, and you know, that's just not the same. We really had a big hole placed, and I hope that enough guys survive this downturn in the concert promotion area and the sound lighting guys and everything else, where they're, like you say, it's kept you healthy, right? It's kept you sane. And let's hope that enough of these guys, because some of these road crew guys and stuff, they probably live check to check and tour to tour. And I guess there was some bailout money, but I mean, you know, you have to have some pride in getting your work done and feel good about yourself in your show, you know, that you do that and you have a good show, it's done, you go, I completed that today. You know, these guys, they couldn't do anything. There was no concerts. It's tough. So let's hope that it gets back out there because people really understand what the music means to them more than ever.
Well, you know, and that, and you know, I've discovered quite a few bands that I never heard before that, you know, thankfully from people that recommend, they say, oh, well, if you like this band, then you're gonna love this one. And it's like, I just been amazed with it. I think 2020, while it, like we were saying, had the obvious downside of it, there were things like, you know, you creating an album to be put out during this time, and then from the fans' point of view, of buying things and discovering things that they never heard of before, you know, because some people have all this time on their hands, you
Right.
know, and then unfortunately a lot of people are using those streaming services, I think in the wrong way. For me, I only use YouTube when someone tells me about a band. I need to hear why they recommend it to me, and
Sure.
when I get why they recommended it to me, you know, I'll go over to the Amazon or to wherever, and you know, buy the CD. And it's like, this is like one of the ones that I got. Yeah, I showed it to
If
you.
if people don't do that, we're all those old guys. My
You know,
first professional band, we were opening for Rush in that show. That picture has Rush, UFO, and Hush on there.
Yeah.
And that's before we had a record contract and stuff. Maybe it's right when we had a record contract. But that was, yeah, that was sort of the start of it, 1979.
Yeah, Tiki Sound.
That's where I worked. And during college, I worked at a recording studio. And yeah, it was just, I've been so lucky. So Grady O'Neill, still a friend of mine, is the owner of Tiki, took me under his wing, taught me recording. I'd been recording in my garage, the 4-track TAC, for a long time. And I brought something into a studio to mix to get the real studio reverb on it. And he goes, where'd you record this? I said, in my garage. He goes, well, this sounds as good as we're getting here with the Ampex, the professional studio. This is pretty good. And little by little, he hired me. I had a Mellotron, which is a big progressive instrument,
Right.
you know, did strings and choirs. So he hired me to bring it down and put it on some of the sessions. And then he had me engineer, and then he taught me how to, you know, play country guitar, the rhythm really straight like they do in Nashville. And I started doing in the mid 70s, people weren't as perfectionists recording wise. There'd be a lot of mistakes and for some reason they didn't seem like they always fixed them. People just weren't so scrutinizing as well. So we'd be mixing. Grady said, oh my God, the guy played the wrong note on the bass. Get your bass. So we'd punch in the right note. I'd play the right note, right? Then, oh, the guitar guy, they're not playing the same chords. So I'd play the right chords and bring my guitar. This is when we're mixing and the band's already gone. Finally, a guy came in and said, look, I want to do this song. And do you have a studio group? And Grady said, well, Ryder can do it. He had me do everything, right? It was the first time that happened. I was doing it at home for myself. But all of a sudden, I was getting $100 a song for playing all the instruments in the mid 70s. And what, you know, led to everything else I've done and my own studio and everything. But yeah, Tiki was a blessing to me that I can't even tell you. It was the Grady's partner, Harvey, worked at Ampex. He was an engineer on the tape recorders. So Tiki always had the latest Ampex recorders, which were the best at the time, right? And that and Studer in Germany. So here I am in Silicon Valley, had nothing to do with Microsoft and Apple then. There was no such thing. Well, I mean, there was in the 70s, but they were in their garage, right? It wasn't like it is now. And I was getting exposed to all the best equipment because his partner worked at Ampex.
Right.
So, I mean, that got me so far ahead in engineering and how to run the equipment and everything. You know, it's I don't know how we got on this, but oh, Tiki, yes, right from the album.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine in the chat room, Kurt. He was like, going, I remember seeing Hush at Holly Road Stables.
Yeah, wow.
So
And don't ask what year. 79 is long enough. Yeah,
it's nice, you know, and it's like these were things that I missed the first time around because, like I said, before 1980, music was just on the radio. I mean, I didn't own a cassette or album or anything. You know, it's like it just didn't connect with me at that point. But then once I got that Russian cassette, it was like, then it finally hit me, and it's like, oh, all this stuff I have to catch up on, and you know, and I'm still catching up on things because people are talking about all these other bands now, and I'm like going, wait a second, oh, more bands for me to go discover, you know, and it's like, even though people like yourself and other people have saw them live in their heyday, and it's like, here I'm, you know, discovering them later, and it's like, but I always say it's that old saying is better late than never.
Oh yeah. It's funny. There's so much music and so many bands that it's hard for me to access a bigger fan base with some of these listeners because they all have their 5 or something favorite little bands you never heard of, right? I mean, you're getting a lot. You never heard of these bands, and probably most people never will. But it takes up that bandwidth where, well, like Yes, you know, or ELP, they had everybody available. It spread. They have this huge audience. But now the audience, my audience, is a little bit captured in between my, you know, 25 years of prog, whatever, 30 years of prog. And it's hard to break into the Marillion fans and maybe Jethro Tull fans. I don't, you know what I mean? There's just, everybody's got all these other things. They're listening to their 5 bands no one's ever heard of besides their main guys. It makes it hard to get a bigger audience right now, even though there is a huge music audience out there. There's too many choices, which is exactly what you're saying, you know?
Yeah. And it's like, you know, I tell people about certain bands and they don't, oh, you know, it's like, and then they tell me, you know, it's like, it's like bands that you should know, you know, even if you don't dive into them, you know, at least they on your radar, and it's like, okay, I know about these bands, you know, I haven't really gotten into them because I got all these other bands. You know, my ears are being occupied by, you know, but, you know, it's like, but that's the one thing is, no matter how much you try, you're not going to get every single album. There's really no way you can't get every single album ever released.
No, and you know, I got to tell you, I told you about the vinyl that I'm pressing on Third Impression, but I also have a t-shirt I'm doing to sort of address this a little bit in a way. It says on the t-shirt, the 3.2 is very small, and Third Impression you almost can't read. It's not a promo. It says music is life, life is music. That's what's on the shirt. And I did that on purpose. I thought, you know, I got to do something. Music suffered. I got to do something for everybody that they might love that saying, right? You know, and I'm only taking pre-orders. I'm only going to press as many as I sell, and I don't do it to make money. It's not for that. But I thought this is a good time for that. Music is life. Life is music, because there's so much music going on and so many people in the business suffering. And I mean, I don't know what's going to happen next year. I was supposed to be in Europe last year, 2020, with Big Train doing that tour. I'm hoping that comes back next year. We might do a few 3.2 shows here. We're also trying to get on Cruise to the Edge. I think it's time that I take my history. I mean, after all, I worked with Steve Howe and GTR, Keith and Carl, the 3, Ambrosia, who started as a progressive band, you know.
Right. Oh,
It
yeah.
might be Blue Eyed Soul, but they were progressive, Life Beyond LA and all that. I worked with so many of the guys. Well, Jimmy from Spock's Beard in my band, Andrew in the band. I need to play the cruise. I want to get on there, right? And
Right.
so we're trying to get that, trying to do a bunch of things to not sort of stay on the map, because I think we're on the map, but to access the people that have supported the music and everything. And like you say, there's so many different ones. All those 5 bands no one's ever heard of that everybody knows. They're not going to get on the cruise, and they're probably not going to tour, right? It's great music and it's an album, but we still have to sort of swim through the sea of all this to get to these things. Like on Cruise to the Edge, you know, they're asking me, oh, who would you want on the Cruise to the Edge? I go down like 100 people. I haven't heard anybody they're talking about. Who are these bands? Where they come from? And, you know, someone will say, oh, Robert Berry, 3.2 out of 100 people. Maybe some of the people don't know who I am, even though I work with Keith, you know.
Right.
But it's not easy to navigate through this huge sea of music you're talking about. It's like it's not easy to listen to it, and then there's only a few you're going to remember after you move on to the next one. Like you might remember Top of the World, that song, you know, when you listen to 5 more albums, but a lot of them you won't remember down the road because there's nothing to sort of take home. You know, there's so much music, but I don't even know what I'm talking about. You know, Ron, you know me, I blab.
Well, yeah, I keep seeing the Cruise to the Edge is in, I think it's May of next year.
Next year, yeah.
And then they kind of picked the date close to what Rossfest was doing. So Rossfest is reworking
right on
there.
top
So,
of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're reworking it so it's not clashing too much, but you know.
Yeah, I want to play them both. I want to play both those. You know, Rossfest is something I want to play too. Andrew played it, I believe, with Circuline. And it's just time for me to get the music out there now because of the end of the 3 series and stuff. I want to do this now. You know, what I'm going to do next is a whole different deal. But this has to do with the history with Keith and Carl and all that. So.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And
yeah, Rossfest was very gracious about that. They realized that the cruise, the parameters were very tight and they had to do certain things. And right away they said, look, we're going to do our best to reschedule. We're going to make this work out. Don't worry. I thought that was pretty nice because they could have said, what the hell? The audience isn't that big. We need to share time, you know. But they didn't. Right. They said, we're going to make this work out. That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was like, you know, going to have, hopefully next year is going to be the year that we're going to see a lot of live things happening.
I'm afraid too many. Everybody wants to, they're all stir crazy, want to get out there.
Right. Yeah. And the thing is, this is, you know, I think, you know, like you were saying, it's like, we got to be careful with, you know, it's like this thing is still out there, you know, people are getting, you know, like you were saying earlier, you know, getting their vaccines and, you know, masking up and everything. But it's like, then you get those people that don't believe it. And those are the people that are going to, I think, are going to be the reason things get prolonged.
Well, they'll take care of that because you won't be able to get on a plane or go into another state unless you have your vaccination card, let's say.
Right.
But even with the vaccination card, I'm a big believer in the herd immunity only because you're walking down the street and someone across the other side of the street sneeze and you still get a little something. That's the way our bodies work. We have antibodies we developed over our life because we're exposed to little things. So I'm not really big on the mask now. Once you get the vaccine, I hate to say inside. Yes, I can see it.
Oh, yeah.
But I believe we need to get a little bit of that immunity naturally because that's the way a human being's body is designed to work. It's amazing that it does, but you know, a little, so long as you have the vaccine. So especially if you're compromised anyway, health issue wise, you can't take a chance getting sick, but you can take a little bit of something in when you're already fighting it and your body, you know, so maybe you get a little cold or you get a little fever or something, your body's developing more antibodies. It's the only way that this is going to go away for good is that we can like I always say this, it's stupid, but I say it anyway. I go to Mexico, I won't drink the water, but we love going to Cabo. But all these Mexican people, these beautiful Mexican, sweet, great families working hard and everything, they drink the damn water and don't get sick. Now, hello, that's the way the body works. And we need to get there. And the vaccine is a step to getting there. If you don't have any vaccine and these little things you're going to get in the herd immunity flying around, whatever the process, you might get pretty sick. You don't want that.
No, because we need to all get, how do you say, get to the other side.
Yeah.
In one piece, and it's like, and
we're getting there.
Oh yeah,
we're getting there. Very positive.
I mean, we got some of this thing with, you putting out an album, and other bands putting out albums during this time. That is a big help, because that's kind of, telling the audience, hey, we're still here. This is our product. It's as quality as it's ever been. When we didn't just go in and slap things together and say, here's the album. We put care and effort into it, and this is what and that helps us as the audience to and the fans to cope with and then when the live shows start back up again, that's the second phase. So
that's the hard phase, because people are saying, you need to do that Top of the World live. Okay. Okay. You need to do Never live. Okay, we're already doing such hard material, but we're going to do it. I mean, we got to play a couple songs off the new album. Now it's 35 years of prog instead of 30, right? My history. Right. So I gotta add that in there.
Oh yeah, and I'm hoping by that time, being up here in Maine we are like a wasteland when it comes to music. And I mean, no disrespect to people that like, country music and hip hop, rap.
Yeah.
But that seems to be the only stuff. Or you get the classic rock revival tours where all they do is play the hits. That's all they do is play the hits. Like, I mean, a few times I think Trick came by, Heart, so bands like that, where they haven't put out an album in years, and all they're doing is doing their hits revival, because that's what they're doing, and that's fine.
Better than a tribute band.
True, yeah, true, and I appreciate that. It's like when it comes to especially progressive rock music, no one seems to want to step foot in Maine. I mean, I think it's because, population wise, we're probably barely the size of Los Angeles, population.
Yeah, I played New Hampshire. That's fairly close, right?
Yeah.
Because my bass player, the second bass player from Hush, Glenn Gates, lives in Maine. So he drove, him and his sister, to see me. And we played LaFaro Center, which Jerry LaFaro is a great artist. Him and his wife, Kathleen, built this barn that holds 150 people. They wanted us to play. He's a famous artist. Manager said, you're going to love this place. Okay. Played 2 nights there. It was one of the best shows. Those people in that room loved the music, were there, true music lovers, right? Amazing. 150 people in New Hampshire, probably not that far from, I mean, could be 3-4 hours. I don't know, but
yeah, I think it's about 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah. So, and of course, they had us over for breakfast, fed us dinner. It was like being part of their household. It was really wonderful. But the performance, I mean, there was chairs right in front of us, people sitting right there. It was so cool. We never get to do that. There's always that distance on the stage, and That's,
Right.
even a small place, 1,000-seater, there's still a distance there. 500-seater, there's this playing a theater, like a college theater or something, even though we'll have 500 people, there's that distance. They were right there. You almost kicked their chair. It felt so good. It was such a wonderful venue, and they were so wonderful that somewhere in Maine, they could do that same thing, because there's guys like you that love music. You only need, 250 of them really to make it work. 150 is hard to pay the band and get us all in there,
Right.
Um, we played another place for 250 people, and it was the middle of nowhere. I forget where it was, but I was like, okay, this seems weird. We traveled all over the place, got there, set up, and sure enough, the place was packed,
Right.
and as you say, people swarmed that merch table afterwards. And for me, it's not about selling and making money. It's about, wow, I want you to sign this. I want to shake your hand, and I want to shake their hand and thank them. It's so cool. The feeling was amazing.
Oh
It
yeah. I mean, when
really
you get
something.
that close, that closeness, and then, I know at least in the first two Prog Fest, after I got the CDs of the bands that just played,
Yeah,
I'll go and seek out everybody and try to get their signature,
yeah.
I did a similar thing at a couple of the ones in Mexico, the Baja Prog that they put on.
Oh, I
Um,
didn't know about that actually. Huh.
yeah, in Mexicali.
Wow, I'd
Uh,
love to play that. We love Mexico.
I
I produce a band called, I don't produce, I record a band called Los Tigres del Norte here at Soundtech. They are referred to as the Mexican Beatles. They have 14 Grammys. They are
Oh
the greatest
wow.
guys, four brothers and a cousin. They are so respectful and so nice, great musicians, all kinds of albums. We did a song for Christmas, Rudolfo, whatever you would say in Spanish, right? I don't speak
Right.
Spanish. Their English is good, luckily. And the first day is 150,000 views on first day. It just came out, 150,000
Right.
YouTube. They're so big, but we love going. Rebecca and I love to go to Cabo, but I'd love to play there. I got so many people that are fans of progressive rock in Mexico, that Mexico City, Brazil, even going down South America.
Oh
It'd be
yes.
such a thrill to play for
They,
that audience. They seem to be real music fans.
oh yeah, yeah. It's funny. It's like I've seen some of like shows of down there, but it's like they're huge. And then
Yeah.
and I think the Mexican and the South American people, and also the Japanese people, are very into the music. I mean, whereas
Yes.
it may be a minor dent in the here in the States, but in Japan or south to us, it's probably like they're like a mega hit.
I just did
Yeah.
a interview with Japan, and I play with Greg Khin too, which is very
Yeah.
simple 3-chord rock and roll. And the guy goes, Robert-san, you more famous than Greg Khin in Japan. So, I'm heading to a movie, and
Okay.
I don't want to cut you off, but Rebecca just texted me and says,
It's
don't
time.
forget the movie.
Well,
We're excited. First time, right? First time indoor movie. Come on. It's a big deal.
hey, there you go. Yeah. Well, hey, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out, to talk with me. I really appreciate that.
Ron, I always would. I've known you a long time. If first by just Facebook name, right? Back and forth,
Right.
and then talking to you online and everything, and the interviews. And I have stuff to talk to you about early next year. So we'll talk then.
Hey.
I can't talk about it now, but
Okay.
I'm
Well,
hoping
I
that
would.
people I hope they go to the website. I really would like, again, I'm only going to order 200 vinyls. If people like vinyl, I sell them cheap. They're like $25, or they're not expensive vinyls. The t-shirts, another thing. It's the end of an era for me, end of style, and the end of my time with Keith and Carl. And it's important to me that people have it. I'm 20 years down the road. I want to be talking to somebody like you, and you say, remember, I'd still got this. That was 20 years ago, but
Right,
you know,
right.
that's important to me. I think it's a piece of history to show how great Keith Emerson still was, his writing, you know. I had to play his parts after the state wouldn't let me use his playing, but I have a Moog, I have everything that he had. The sounds and the style, the writing is his. And this was my reason to finish up the third album, to put the stamp on it, and honor him and our time and our friendship, and honor the reaction of a crowd that in 1988, the Prague people were not so happy that I wasn't Greg Lake.
Right.
That Keith was doing rock songs, and now they're more accepting because they realize the depth of the integrity in the musicianship.
Yes.
and what he did and what we did together.
Yes. And that I'm one of those people, I appreciate it now more than I did back then. But for me it was different. I wasn't coming at it where this was an ELP. I was just coming at it. It was the overall style of music.
Yeah, well,
wasn't
you weren't into
100%.
Yeah.
But now it's like, I'm like going, wow, this is great.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I appreciate you having the album, listening to it, talking about a couple of songs or you like Top of the World. I mean, that thrills me to death. Having put it first, it was a risk, but it hooked you.
Yeah, it was a good opener, a very good opener.
That's cool. That's great.
Well, maybe we can do this again once you have, like you said, you have something coming out.
Okay. Yeah, definitely.
Kind of, we'll say to be continued.
That sounds good to me.
Right. Well, thank you again. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, be careful of that Robert Schindler. He's gonna say something on there.
Yeah, he wants the vinyl.
He's a good guy. He's a great musician. He's a really great musician. He posts stuff every week. He's playing. He has all these keyboards and stuff, and every one of them is high quality stuff. He's just and he's a good person. It's not anyway. Forget him. This is about you. All right, Ron. I appreciate it. I will talk to you very soon, and you have a good rest of the day. And
you too.
You don't put the third impression aside yet. It's not time.
Oh no, it's not time.
All right, man. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.